anyway, we should definitely move on to our next segment, which is militarism. This is something we've been talking about a lot for the last couple of shows. This week, the aspect of militarism that we want to talk about is the nature of terrorist organizations and their structure and how they operate. And we wanted to specifically look at two kinds of Islamic terrorist organizations that we should be aware of. One is Al-Qaeda and the other is Lashkar-e-Taiba. Al-Qaeda is, of course, run by Ayman al-Zawahiri and Osama bin Laden, and Lashkar-e-Taiba is run by Hafiz Mohammed Saeed, right?
Yeah.
Glad I remembered that guy's name, because I almost didn't.
Yeah, he was arrested today.
Yeah, he was arrested today, but they're probably not going to keep him, didn't you say?
Well, this is the third time he's been arrested after a Lashkar-e-Taiba attack in India, so there's a lack of confidence that they'll actually keep him.
Right. So anyway, we can talk a little bit about how Al-Qaeda got started and how Lashkar-e-Taiba got started. I actually really have to blow my nose, which I don't want to do on camera, so maybe Harry can talk about the early Al-Qaeda stuff for 2 minutes while I go away.
Well, the thing that's very interesting about Al-Qaeda, first of all, is that the name was actually used by the CIA to describe the phenomenon. That nobody called it that until it became publicized by the CIA, and that Al-Qaeda is a very loose, sort of anarchistic kind of organization that they're not so much interested in commanding terrorists as they are in training people. You know, they essentially believe that. They believe in a decentralized concept of jihad, where they believe that it's really the duty of every believer to advance the faith.
You were talking about Al-Qaeda, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so yeah, Al-Qaeda is, the two main guys in Al-Qaeda are Bin Laden, as we know, and al-Zawahiri.
Yeah.
Bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia, and from...
We're assuming here that Bin Laden is alive. We don't know that.
Yeah, that's a whole other show unto itself. Yeah. But as far as ideological influences, Bin Laden is one pillar, and he comes from Saudi Arabia, and his influence is Wahhabist. Al-Zawahiri was influenced by the Islamic thinker Sayyid Qutb.
Yeah.
Say it?
Sayyid Qutb.
Yeah, he comes a lot closer than me on that.
I can't really do... you really can't expect an English speaker to pronounce a Q without a stuntman.
Well, so anyway, he's a very interesting character. He came to the United States for a while in the late 40s and was so appalled by what he saw in the United States that he decided Christianity was just totally fucked. And that's what caused him to have his super... hardcore beliefs in Islam develop.
Yeah, he spent a few years, I think, in Greeley, Colorado, in the 1950s, and he was appalled by certain things. You mentioned the lawns.
One thing in particular that he hated was the lawns and how much time and energy Americans spent manicuring their lawns with sprinklers and lawnmowers. He was appalled by this. This and the dances. With young people going to dances and putting their cheeks next to each other.
Keep in mind also that Sayyid Qutb is an Egyptian, and so he's from a place where water is very precious, and people would be very all of their gardening would be devoted to food. So.
Right. Well, anyway, it's just I find it really comical that the thing that pushed him over the line was the lawns. Anyway, so he started an organization. Afghanistan and Pakistan now. The U.S. government would like to say they aren't in Afghanistan, but the thing is, the U.S. government doesn't have control over most of Afghanistan. The Taliban are in charge, and they have no problem letting Al-Qaeda operate there. So some are on the Pakistan side, but plenty are on the Afghanistan side. The other group, Lashkar-e-Taiba, means Army of the Pure, correct? Yeah. Army of the Pure. This was founded around the same time and had always been an ISI project, as opposed to being a group that the government's hooked up with. They started out as a government project.
Yeah, and they did have some connections to these training camps in Afghanistan.
But that was just a matter of sharing resources, because these guys are Wahhabists too, so they're in line with the Bin Laden ideological side of Al-Qaeda.
And also, it's probably handy that that Lashkar-e-Taiba probably got some funding from Saudi Arabia. Whether that's the government or not, I haven't seen good information on.
It's hard to discern, but they are considered to get a fair amount of their funding, probably second only to what they get from the government from Saudi Arabia. Now, an important thing to remember about Lashkar-e-Taiba is that they are very integrated into the community. They provide a lot of community services that here we would think would be provided by the government, but instead of being provided by the government, they're provided by this terrorist organization.
And this also was a big thing for them in that area, was that there was a major earthquake in Pakistani held Kashmir in 2005.
Actually, on my birthday, October 8th.
And that the Lashkar-e-Taiba people under their front organization, which is called Jamaat-ud-Dawa.
Well, yeah, they were made illegal in 2004, but they still operate under this.
Their front organization worked with helping the victims of the earthquake, and that got them a lot of support.
That's one of the things that got them the status as more than just a terrorist organization, and actually, providers of crucial services. And when I say services, I mean hospitals, schools, ambulances, everything. And their training that they give is very much in line with what we saw happen in Mumbai. So I think I'm fairly convinced that it was Lashkar-e-Taiba that did that.
This thing about providing services, that maybe terrorists should start providing healthcare services in the United States. They could
probably win some supporters. Anyways, so that was our closer look at the terrorist organizations. Maybe say a word about the way Lashkar-e-Taiba is organized. They're a little different. They actually have a pretty solid structure.
Yeah, they tend to have more of a structure than the Al-Qaeda types do, and that's also that someone can control them. Whoever that is, and that is. Likely to be connected with ISI. There's also there's also